speaker, just in case. Thank you, Bon, for recording the meeting. Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We have an exciting program for you today. Our president, Dr. Valencia Jones, is sick. She said she thinks she has COVID. She's been sick for almost a week, and she asked me to preside over the meeting today, if that's okay with you guys.
Of course.
And then what we'll do is we'll proceed with the agenda as written. We have an educational moment by Charles, speaker Suzanne Leonard, if she's able to come on. Charles is backup. And let's see, table topics is Bond. April is timer, and I am going to be your general evaluator and presiding officer. So if there are no objections, let's get started. Okay?
Okay.
All right, you guys. Today's theme is reflections. What are you reflecting on today? There's lots of things to think about. What have you been doing? What have you accomplished? What are you dare to do today to make it a reflective moment on what you're up to? And I think that the possibilities are endless, as always. Rosabelle is, I see her screen, but I don't see her face, and that's okay. Elios is going to be our guest. He's going to be on listening mode only. Anyone else have technical difficulties with Zoom this morning? Deborah, you waved your hand. Are you having difficulties this morning?
A little with my screen, but
Oh,
I'm here.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's get started. I think that sometimes we need a booster. Like April put in that Dr. Valencia had a COVID booster shot and it worked backwards. It probably gave her COVID, as she mentioned to me this morning, because she's not feeling well. So let's pray that she feels better soon. She said it's been almost a week, and I think that that's a terrible disease for those who catch it. Some have a mild case, some don't. So let's wish everyone good health and practice good health, because we have so many things that we're exposed to. And fortunately, our meeting is on Zoom, so we do not have to worry about that part for our meeting. So let's get started. I think I want to introduce, well, I'm Toastmaster.
No, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. So many people have
That's okay.
changed. Yeah, I'm so glad I'm not, because it's like I feel like I'm carrying.
Yeah, you're the general evaluator.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
I see Suzanne is back. Suzanne, we still can't hear you?
No.
Okay. All right. She's saying something. Maybe you could type in the chat, but Charles will be our backup speaker today. Okay. So let's start with our educational moment by Charles. Take it away, Charles.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I've had a cold for the last week and a half also, so that's why my voice is even worse than it was last time. What I'm going to share with you comes from the book, The Exceptional Presenter. I'm a firm believer that if you want to get better in your in your craft, that you're always working at it. They're using Open Up, OPENUP, as an acronym. It says the exceptional presenter is organized. Exceptional presenters take charge. They look poised and polished. That's the O. The exceptional presenter is passionate. Exceptional presenters exude enthusiasm and conviction. That's the P. Exceptional presenters do everything in their power to engage each audience member. They're engaging. An exceptional presenter's style is natural. That's the N. As an exceptional presenter, you must understand your audience. That's the U. And practice. Those who practice improve. OPENUP.
Thank you, Charles. Open up. Let's open up and enjoy and explore the possibilities of what's going to be a great reflection in our meeting today. Now, Randy is a guest. How are you doing, Randy?
I'm doing fantabulous. I had that laryngitis that Charles is talking about for the past 2 months. I've had the head cold, the chest cold, the upper respiratory illnesses, but I'm back and my singing voice is not there yet, so I can't do karaoke. But I'm back and I'm watching you guys. I was just trying to do something on the sideline here as a guest, and because you don't really see me.
Yeah, that's okay, Randy. Well, thanks for being a part of our meeting today. Now we see you.
Yeah.
And everyone is here. Let's get started. Today's Toastmaster is Suzanne Ali. She's a California girl, born and raised. A little known fact about her, or maybe some of you already know, is that she can maneuver around in the dark and is known for startling people. How funny is that? She's been a Toastmaster for 11 years and discovered her purpose in life is to educate others about blindness related topics and sharing her unique life experience through her eyes. She especially enjoys hearing others share their life stories. Being sight impaired is not going to hold this young lady back. She is joining us this morning as Toastmaster of the Day. Please give a warm welcome to distinguished Toastmaster Suzanne Ali.
Thank you, Roz. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It feels like it's been forever, like maybe last year, or several weeks ago. But anyway, I love this topic. The theme today, reflections. And something I learned about it is, and I love this, reflections serve as the mirrors to the soul, or a mirror to our souls. And I love that. And I think it is so fitting because when we reflect, we're sharing those reflections with others. We're expressing our emotions and we're really opening up to people. And I was reminded of when I was in social work, and I was in my master's program, one of my professors had a magazine, I think it was, or a book or a magazine, and she would have folks submit articles. It was titled Reflections. And I remember reading some of those, people reflecting back on parts of their lives, places they've been, things they have done. I don't like the word things, but some were adoption, people that were adopted. I remember that story in particular, but again, it was just reflecting and showing their soul. And I think that's a lot of what we do when we reflect. I know we're doing a lot of that with my dad, also reminiscence, but a lot of reflecting back on memories that we shared with him. He passed away 3 months ago. And just reflections are just awesome. And I think it's a great way, and it's a way that connects us all. is sharing our reflections of our past experiences and perhaps giving us glimpses into our present and into our future. So that's a little bit about reflections right now. I would like to introduce I don't do this alone, which is probably a good thing. Our timer this morning is April. April, please tell us your duties as timer this morning. Thank you.
Good morning,
Good
Suzanne.
morning.
My goal as timer will be to make sure that we stay on time.
Yes.
I will use timing lights behind me to show our timing. Our speaker will have, Mr. Radney, will it be 5 to 7 minutes or 7 to 10?
It'll be 5 to 7.
5 to 7 minutes. International speakers timer. So at the 5-minute mark, I will show the green. At the 6-minute mark, I will show green. And at the 7-minute mark, I will show red. We'll have a 30-second grace period. And for our table topics, we will have 1 to 2 minutes. So again, I will show the green at 1, yellow at 1.5, red at the 2-minute mark. And again, when you see the red, you have 30 seconds of grace. For our general evaluator, we will have 3 to 5 minutes. So green at 3, yellow at 4, and red at 5. Those are our timing rules for today. I hope everyone reflects on their time as they're speaking. Back to you, Madam Table Topics.
Thank you, April. Yes, I believe we will all reflect all during this meeting, definitely today. Does Charles have an intro that someone can, or do you have a title? Because we'll move into, our general evaluator today, and I will introduce her when that time comes, is going to be Roz. So I'll do a little intro. And for our table topics is going to be Bond. So I will do a little intro before I introduce them. But Charles, do you have an intro or anything like a title, or you want to?
The title is Our Attitudes.
Our Attitudes. Charles E. Radney with the title Our Attitudes. Take it away, Charles.
All right, let me get this set up.
And again, it's 5 to 7 minutes.
I'm on a different computer, so bear with me while I get this
Yes,
set up.
Okay. So has anybody done any reflecting today? I think we all do. Every day.
Meanwhile, Suzanne, our
Yes.
Toastmaster of the day, we have a guest joining us. We'll ask him how he
Okay.
heard about us towards
Okay.
the end of the meeting. His
Great.
name is James.
Okay,
So
cool. Thank you, Roz. Thank you, James,
Thank
for
you,
joining
James.
us today. Thank you, James.
Are you guys able to see my screen?
Can you guys see it? I can't.
Yes,
Okay.
You can see it?
She
we
said
can.
yes.
It's not in presentation mode quite yet. There's the icon on the bottom. Yes, if you go up to the top, keep going and press the play screen. That should take us to presentation mode.
Did it come in this time?
Mm.
Not yet.
Okay.
Mm.
Because it does say you are screen sharing.
Yes, you are. We could see your first slide.
Okay, you're seeing the GWA attitudes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, then we'll just go with that.
Okay.
When you talk about reflecting, yesterday I did an 8-hour class on attitudes in the workplace, and this is a part of that class. But this was a part that was specifically designed for a group that I'm involved with called the Generational Wealth Alliance. When we talk about where our attitudes come from, when I talk about the fact that my grandfather and my grandfather had 7 grandchildren or 7 children and close to 30 grandchildren, I was the lucky one. I was the one who inherited his hands. A lot of people look at my hands and think it's arthritis. No, it's a congenital birth defect that I inherited from my grandfather, through my mother. If I have a daughter, and if she were to have a son, that son would have the possibility of having it. I was able to be in the Journal of Joint Services in 1955 when they were talking about my hands. Now, the interesting thing about my hands is that the only thing it really held me back from was a job at the stamping plant for Ford Motor Company, because when I did the initial interview, the guy said to me, "We have enough hand injuries without hiring you." When I went home and told my dad that, it was second and only twice in my entire life have I ever heard my dad use a curse word. And that was his reaction to me telling him that. When we talk about, or we explore where our attitudes come from, I'd always wondered, because I had a very close friend, and when we first met, we realized that we had both gone to the same high school in Cleveland, which was East Technical High School. That was the school that Harrison Dillard and both Jesse Owens also graduated from. We went to the same high school, but we went to that high school 5 years apart. But in further conversation, I found out not only we gone to the same high school, but we also had gone to the same preschool and attended the same neighborhood recreation center. Still, I'm wondering where her attitude came from. Later, she and I had a conversation, and I've known her over 40 years. So this conversation was about 10 years ago. And in that conversation, she helped me at that point to really understand where her attitude potentially came from. When she made the following statement, she said, "You grew up in a house. You grew up in a house with a mom and a dad. You grew up in a house that had a yard where you could go out and play safely." Think about that. Whereas she grew up in the projects with a single mom in a neighborhood that she didn't feel safe going out into. Now, the plus side of that story is that her mom was the law clerk for Louis Stokes. Louis Stokes and his brother Carl Stokes. Carl Stokes was the first Black mayor of a major Black city, or a major city. Because of her mom's job working in that law office, they were later able to move into one of the suburbs, if you will, into a much better neighborhood. But her early life was forged, if you will, by where she lived, the restrictions she had, and that was a part of her attitude. When you look at people that you're around, and you can look at people and go, we have very similar situations. We started off in a lot of the same ways. We grew up in the same neighborhoods. But did you really grow up in the same neighborhood? Just because you're in the same zip code, you could be in an entirely different neighborhood. When you look at the difference between the projects and a home, those are the reflections, and my voice is going, those are the reflections that we look at when we start to try to determine what causes a person's attitude and what things they can reflect back on. With that said, before my voice goes completely, I'm going to end this, but think about that when you look at people and you try to figure out why they respond to you the way they respond to you. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Charles. You know, strike that. As you were sharing, I was reflecting back on my life and how I grew up in the backyard, and so true that boy, now I got a little frog in my throat, that we don't know how people grew up. We don't know. I had friends down the street or in the same zip code that didn't have the same experiences I had. So I thank you for sharing this. And again, it did make me reflect and think back on how I grew up, and thank you for sharing. I sincerely appreciate your sharing especially coming up at the last minute. You're a real Toastmaster. Thank you, Charles. It is time for our round robin. It gives us an opportunity for each of us to share, give Charles some feedback about his wonderful speech. Would anyone like to go first? Step up and give.
I would.
Okay,
This is
Roz.
Roz.
All right,
Yes.
Roz. Yes.
And I hope many others will follow me. Charles, thank you so much
Yes.
for incorporating the theme of our meeting, reflections, into your impromptu
Yes.
speech, if you will, because you stepped up when Suzanne was unable to.
Yes.
The story that you shared with us
Yes.
is like making me go back and think of my childhood
Yes.
and what I may have experienced compared to you and compared to anyone else. Sometimes we have to reflect on where we grow up,
Yes.
how we are raised,
Yes.
our parent involvement, and the likelihood of us growing up to be a better person. And I know you have. You have demonstrated on many occasions how well you are adjusted to life and how you raise your family. So, what we could learn from this is be aware of your background, be aware of your upbringing, and thank you for sharing your story. You started talking about the hand problem, but I didn't see it in you. You might have shown it on the screen before, but I didn't see it. So the fact that you mentioned it in your speech, it might have been helpful to see what you were talking about. But other than that, great speech. Thank you so much.
Roz, actually, there was a picture on the screen of me as a baby with the hands.
Well, I saw that, Charles. Thanks for mentioning it. I saw you as a baby, but I couldn't make out what was going on with your hands in the
Okay.
picture. Okay. So my apologies.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think that first of all, Charles is an expert
Yes.
teacher, trainer, speaker, etc. And to be not feeling well and coming off the cuff with an impromptu is just awesome because there was a huge learning in there. It's interesting, Charles, because the topic you guys brought up today, I had no idea. I was going to try to make it because Suzanne was speaking, but reflections and then what your talk had the message.
Yes.
I wrote an article this morning in LinkedIn because they've been asking me to respond to different things. And the article had to do with, and I won't read the entire article, but it had to do with me talking about when I first started my speaking career, and never thinking about myself as being ordinary my whole life, because growing up in the 60s back east as a young African-American male, which is not in the article, I kept it a little more sanitary so people would get it. But the fact that we're growing up in different environments, it could be out of country, it could be in a different town, it could be in the city, outside of the city. A lot of I was reflecting on what you said, a lot of our teachings and our learnings come from our parents. And in my case, it was my mother and my grandmother. My father and mother were divorced. But I was also a Army brat. So because of being an Army brat, you were forced to be put in multicultural situations, even sitting around the times that we were living in the civil rights bashing and all that good stuff. But a lot of that comes from who is your rock, whether it's your parent, your grandparent, your aunt, your uncles. Who are you learning from and who's teaching you? And you were sharing that your father only got upset one time. You only saw him say a curse word one time, and that's commendable, thinking about the times that we were growing up. And what I was really trying to get the people in the article to understand is no matter where you come from, it all starts in here through your teachings. And then you have the ability as an adult to self-direct and change the trajectory of your life. but it takes a lot. And you just shared with us how much it takes. And then you add on to that, you had an issue that most people weren't dealing with, and it was different. It was a rare thing. And you overcame that and dealt with that. So thank you so much for sharing that information today,
Yes.
that message.
You're quite
Absolutely.
welcome.
Anyone else?
Can I add another?
Rosabelle,
Rosabelle? Okay.
thank you.
I heard you first.
Well, Charles, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And in my career, I've seen quite a few people with disabilities, both visible and outwardly apparent, and disabilities that are not readily apparent, like epilepsy or recurrent fainting spells. And people suffer either way. I would like all of us to reflect on when we might meet somebody, just like we may be ignorant of their background and the neighborhood of where they grew up. We may also be unaware of disabilities that are hidden. And we should always not judge to misjudge them based on something that they cannot do or that they do wrong, or that, you know, they fall asleep while you're talking to them, that it's not lack of respect or any bad intention on their part. Just as you were trying to get the job at Ford, and you couldn't because somebody saw your hands and basically kicked you out of the interview room, which I wouldn't have said a swear word like men do, but I would have been pretty angry too in defense of my son or my mother or anybody else I've seen discriminated against, including patients I've seen who are total strangers. So thank you for bringing those things up, our need to reflect on our ignorance and possible differences in backgrounds, as well as visible and not so visible disabilities. It was well presented, and you came up with some great pictures. We love your baby picture in the medical journal of all places. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosabelle. How are we doing on time, Madam Timer, April?
Give us a few more minutes for feedback just because
Okay.
of having one speaker today.
Okay.
And so actually we're at the green right now.
Okay.
We have 2 more minutes left
Okay.
for
Would
feedback.
Okay. Would anyone like to add anything, April or anybody?
I would. I'm Deborah.
Okay. Okay. Deborah. Oh, Deborah, there you are. Thank you.
Charles, great speech this morning. You made me reflect back on my childhood and the things that I've learned throughout my years. I did not get a lot of reflections from my mom or my brothers and sisters, other than being a child growing up in the South. But I got it once I left home and listening to my mom and my older brothers and sisters. They gave me more information that now I can reflect to my family. And I sit and try to provide them as much information on family issues, family background, and inheritance. So thank you for that great presentation.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone, for your feedback. And I know this helped Charles immensely. I know it helped me. And again, thank you, Charles, for stepping up and being a true Toastmaster and giving that awesome speech. Thank you again. It's time for table topics. I love table topics. And to lead us in table topics this morning is a gentleman who I have come to just know and love and respect. He is always willing to step up and take on a role when needed, and is always willing to help when it is needed. He's just an awesome speaker. Please help me welcome Bond to lead us in table topics. Take it away, Bond.
Yes, thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. I love the theme today, reflections. This is the time to reflect, especially in the Toastmasters community. Our annual term just come near to the end now. It definitely is the right time and good time to reflect on many things through last term or last year. So I quickly wrap up some questions to encourage us to share our reflections on the different aspects of our lives or our learning experience. First question, I want to ask Deborah. So would you reflect on the past Toastmasters term? What is the benefit you think you have gained or benefits?
Thank you, Bon, for that question. The past Toastmaster term within this past year, I reflect that I've been a part of more clubs than I had. I've been able to learn more because of the clubs in leadership, listening to entrepreneurs, Road to DTM, and as well as other two clubs, one that I coach that made Distinguish. It helped me to realize that there are more avenues out there than just my home club, encouraging other members in my club to step out of their comfort zone and to help others. It's reflect me to step into helping other areas in Toastmasters that I never knew existed 15 years ago. I'm reflecting about sometimes, why did I step into that? I amaze myself sometimes. Why am I stepping into that role? But God's given me the vision that you can do it. And I just step in and step aside and let others get into where I was and being great leaders. Thank you, Bon.
Thank you, Deborah, for sharing that. We all know you. It's always available to help people out and help the community. Really appreciate your help and contribution. And good luck with hosting the upcoming conference. That is a big stuff for you and your team. Thank you. Next question, similar to first one, I would like to ask April. What is the lesson or one of the lessons you want to share with us from the past term, Toastmasters term?
Thank you so much for this question. One of the lessons that I've learned from this past Toastmasters term is no matter how long you've been a part of an organization, there may be a function that you've never done. So you can be an expert and a pro, but still find yourself to be a beginner. For this club, for example, I found myself and our Sergeant at Arms, Frankie, helping one another out, where we both have been in each other's roles, but we hadn't been in the roles that we're in right now. And that was a huge realization, like, wow, you could be a part of an organization for 5-10 years, but step into a new role, a new position, and have a completely different perspective. So that's something that I really learned this year, and something that I would definitely encourage other people to do. That if there's a role, if you're saying, you know what, I'm the right arm, I've always been the right arm, that's what I do. Ask yourself, well, what is it like to be the ear? Have I ever been the ear? Do I have the capacity to be the ear? It could be very uncomfortable because you're in the same room and you think that you know everything about being in that room. And then one day you realize that everything you know about being in that room was based off of your perspective. And when your perspective changes, you'll find that there's so much more to learn. That for me has been my year, this year of Toastmasters. Stepping into a different position within the same room has given me a completely different perspective and a different respect for each person that has taken on that role. Thank you, Sir Table Topics Master.
Yay.
Thank you, April. I think we all love your attitude to stay and keep learning and stay curious about all the opportunities in your life. Thank you for sharing with us. Next question, I would like to ask Rosabelle. We know you are a typical entrepreneur, even you have other medical practice. So I would like to ask you about your entrepreneurship adventure. Would you reflect on a time when you have to pivot or you have to change quickly about your business strategy, kind of unexpected, and how did you navigate through that change?
Yes, thank you, Bond, for that great question. I think we all have experienced sudden having to face sudden changes, not being ready. COVID was an example, and many of us had to move our businesses quickly. In my case, the art gallery business as well, in the middle of the month of March of 2020, moved from the gallery in Barcelona to Zoom, or literally overnight, thanks to my friends there who had creative foresight because they were artists. I think probably even better than my foresight, as I am only a scientist. I also had to pivot my practice in not just at COVID, but when I changed to Zoom in my medical practice, it was because many of my patients were overseas or out of state, Canadian hockey players with concussions, for example. And luckily, I had that experience by choice. And even though those were patients I did pro bono, I didn't get paid for any of them, because back then they weren't recognizing telemedicine as paid unless it was government military work specifically for veterans. But I'm glad I did that, because then when COVID did come, I was ready. And not what I'm really proud of is that I helped all those patients who otherwise would have had no treatment and no care. But it was a slow pivot. So I have to admit that for me, it was easy. I didn't really care about the money. But in retrospect, a lot of people then commended me, and it just kind of fell on me from the sky. So there are two ways of these unexpected pivots. One, it hits you, and the other one may be an inconspicuous presentation, which is an opportunity. And then reflecting back, you think, wow, I was lucky. Thank you. Great question. Thank you, Bond.
Thank you, Rosabelle. I really relate a lot of moments you just shared with us. Sometimes when we look back, some changes that we made is not really under plan. It's a lot of those changes just came up unexpected, and all we can do is just embrace them and just maneuver ourselves and face changes or challenges, whatever they are. Thank you for sharing with us. Next question, I would like to ask Randy. Sorry, stop you from your coffee.
That's okay.
Right moment. I really like to hear from you. If you would go back in time and give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be and why?
There's so many things. And by the way, I became a DTM without ever becoming a timer. I was so afraid of messing up somebody's timing that I made it through DTM, but then I did do timing. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because one of the most impactful things for me was during my near-death experience with asthma. And I remember inside my head and talking to my maker, and I shared with him, if he would just let me stay long enough to see my boys grow up. And he did. Short story, he did. I'm still here. But when I reflect back on that, I always think, and I shared this before, be careful what you ask for. Because I asked at the time, under those circumstances, if he would let me see my boys grow up. Had I known better and thought better under those circumstances, I would have said, let me see my grandkids grow up. Because the boys are all grown up, so I'm really on borrowed time. So be careful what you ask for. That's the reflection there.
I like that.
Thank you for that great answer, Randy. Be careful what you ask for. I definitely I've written that down and I take this note. I will think about that. That's a very insightful advice. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And we have a guest, James. James, do you think you can take one of the questions? I see his screen is not this stable.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so here I have.
My name is James.
Okay.
Yes, I usually connect with you by using Techno, but today I decided to put my name. I often get invitation, so you on Zoom meeting of
Okay, James. I think your voice is on and off. It's a little stuck. I cannot hear you. I'm not sure about others. Maybe
No, I can't hear him either. Yeah.
it's the Wi-Fi
No.
from my side, but
Yeah.
your voice is on and off. It's very
Yes.
unstable.
Yes.
I did hear you just changed your name. I understood your name was Safari or something before when you visit us, but you changed to your new name, which is James. It's good to know your name for sure. But I would like to move on with other attendants if you don't mind, because your voice a little bit on and off, so you can keep listening. Is that okay, James?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I will move on. I will put on you on mute. And
Terrible.
you can stay here. Okay, thank you, James, for your patience. Let me. So my next question, I would like to ask Suzanne Ali, our
Okay.
Madam Toastmaster. I
Okay.
haven't seen her for a really long time.
Okay.
I would like to ask Suzanne to share with us,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what is the latest unexpected challenges or challenge you have gone through in your life or in your learning experiences, and what did you do to overcome it?
Unexpected challenges and how do I overcome it? Jeez, I don't know if I could talk on this topic. Mr. Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters and guests, how long do I have to answer this question? Unexpected challenges and how did I overcome them? Take you back to August of 2006. We were on a family vacation. My brother, my sister-in-law, and the kids, my nieces, and some other friends. It was our last day. I was getting on the boat like I had done so many times before, and I fell backwards and hit the back of my head. I woke up in the emergency room and learned that, yes, I had indeed fallen. I don't remember anything after being told, okay, you can get on the boat now.
Green.
But I was told that I was responding to all the questions. While all the bruises and the scrapes healed, I lost my smell and taste. And not being able to see well and not having your smell and taste, now I had 3 sensory losses that I now had to learn to live with because I was told by an expert that I may never get it back. Or it could take 10 years. And
Hello?
that was a terrible challenge in my life. I had to change my life all around. Had to buy a detector for smells in the house. I'm drawing a blank on that. Had to have my food inspected. But I had other experiences in my life, so I knew how to deal with the challenge. had a great family support, and I dealt with that. And I got my smell and taste back after a
Fred?
long 7 years. So again, reflecting back on that challenge of not having my smell and taste and dealing with that, with all the accommodations that I had to make, and a family support really helped get me through it. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for sharing with us, for taking the courage to share your vulnerability in life. We all have this moment, and I really commend your courage to overcome all these challenges and get your taste back. And congratulations. Thank you. So, Miss Timer, do you think we have time for more questions, or should we move on?
We have time for 1 or 2 more.
Okay. This question, I would like to reflect on a previous question asked the one and the only Ross Carter. This is a repeated question. What is your reflection on the past term of this Toastmaster year?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, friends and guests. You know, what I have learned and what I reflect on the most is starting this club, the Entrepreneur Toastmasters Club. It was a challenge to get 20 members. And I often wonder, why does Toastmasters require a new club to start with a minimum of 20 members? Sometimes it's very hard. But in this case, I think the subject matter, being entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs, was a driving force. And Rosabelle helped me set up a survey so that we could send to, I believe it was over 50 people, to respond and say, would you join a club for entrepreneurs or those who want to be entrepreneurs? What would you learn from them? And then we talked about what would be the best day and the best time of day. And I was like, oh no, 7 a.m. was the decision of the club members, the prospective members. And I said, okay, I'll just set my alarm and go back to sleep after the meeting. So I do that sometimes. But the reflection of this year, and we've crossed over into our second year as a club. I saw that James said he's going to start a club in his country. What happens is when you want to start a club, just gain the interest of 20 or more friends. Have them make a commitment for at least the first 6 months to be a club and sustain the purpose and the excitement of being in a new club. Because chartering a club is very exciting. And then maintaining it and sustaining membership is just the work that needs to be done. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Ross. I really appreciate your efforts to put things together and to build the team. I am proud of being part of your efforts through the starting of this club. Thank you. And I think we can quickly ask one more question. In that way, we can almost ask every available speaker for today. So I would like to ask Charles. Charles, you have a lot of entrepreneur endeavors in your entrepreneurship life. Would you share with us one of your business plan which you decided in the past, but as time, all the different technology have evolved, you think it's not available and you have to make the pivot to embrace the new business strategies? I hope I made that clear.
Thank you for the question. When you talk about embracing new ideas, as a speaker, I was very adept at doing stage presentations and very adept at knowing the things that we need to have in place to do them properly. But as we moved into the era of Zoom, based on COVID, that was an entirely new learning experience. And it's one that's being constantly updated by myself. Because the trainings I do for Valley College are primarily Zoom, or right now are all Zoom, the first thing, or the first adaptation I made was to have dual screens as I'm doing presentations. Over the summer, I added the third screen because I found that when I was doing presentations and I would have the slides on one screen, the people on another screen, there would be people in the chat that I needed to be able to respond to. The third screen accommodates the chat. As I said earlier, if we are constantly improving our craft, we've got to stay up to date and be willing and flexible to make changes. Back to you, Bon.
Thank you, Charles. Your answer definitely has a lot of commonality. We all relate to that, I guess, adapted to this Zoom era, so to speak. It really poses a lot of challenges as well as the opportunities. Thank you for sharing with us. I think now we can conclude this table topic session. As I have asked all the available, we do have some attendance, but not really available for questions. They are listeners here. Again, thank you everyone for participating in this part. I really love the questions, the answers you have presented to us. With that said, I conclude this table topic session. I return the floor back to our Madam Toastmaster, Suzanne.
Thank you, Bon, for those wonderful table topics questions, and I think everybody did very well answering them, and I appreciate again. Do we do a timers report now, or is that at the end of the meeting? The very end of the meeting? I apologize. I should know this.
The timers
No.
report was just
Um,
placed in the chat box
Oh, okay, okay.
by Deborah.
Okay.
So does anyone need for her to repeat it out loud?
It's okay. I just, I wanted to make sure I didn't glance over a timers report, or if we needed to.
Okay.
Yes, I can give a brief overview. For table topics, Deborah shared on benefits gained from Toastmasters for 1 minute and 13 seconds. Myself, April Gillis, I shared on taking on different roles within the same club for 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Dr. Rosabelle Young shared about a time where she pivoted within her business for 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Mr. Randy Powell spoke about advice for his younger self. Be careful what you ask for 1 minute and 7 seconds. Susanna
Thank you.
Ali spoke
you.
about unexpected challenges for 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh my.
Madame Roz Carter talked about reflections of her Toastmaster year for 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Mr. Charles Radney spoke about a business plan that he has pivoted and evolved for 1 minute and 27 seconds. Wonderful questions and great participation. We did have a hard time hearing our guest,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
So hopefully next time he comes, we'll be able to hear him to participate as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, April. Thank you so much for saying those out loud. And for my future time, is our table topics, are they less time? Because I seem to remember, again, it's been a while. Is it less time that we normally do if we have more speakers, is it less time that we give? For
No,
table
it's still
Oh,
one,
it is 1 to
it's still
2?
one,
Okay.
1 to
Okay.
2, yeah.
Okay, my bad. It is time for our general evaluation portion of the meeting. This is so important, receiving feedback about our speeches and table topics and our meeting as a whole. And for us this morning, our general evaluator this morning is someone we all know and love. She's a longtime Toastmaster. She has her own podcast. I found her. Check it out sometime. Please help me welcome Roz for to give our general evaluation today. Take it away, Roz.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster,
You're welcome.
Suzanne Ali. First of all, let's all give her a round of applause as our Toastmaster
Thank
of
you.
the day. She's
Thank
done a
you.
wonderful job. And you could see that she doesn't let sight impairment stop her from anything.
No.
She picks up everything that people say.
Mhm.
She can translate what is written and take it over. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for following our agenda and being so well on reflections.
Thank you.
Now, with Charles' speech, everyone was able to add feedback, and that's what I like about this club. We give feedback to our speakers in whatever way we feel is appropriate, mostly complimentary. And that's what I love about this club. There are no harsh words, there are no complaints, there's just suggestions for improvement, as we all know in Toastmasters. And Charles did an outstanding job, as most of those who responded in his feedback portion, that it was impromptu. He was asked on the last minute to step up, and he did. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Charles, for stepping up as our speaker today. And I think that with table topics, Bond made a remarkable achievement. He asked each of us to reflect in one way or another, based on the theme, how we think about Toastmasters, what we went back and looked on through life challenges, through Toastmasters engagement. And as the Timers report said, she gave the suggestion, I guess, that what everyone responded to was well within the time, but what they responded to was in response to Bond's excellent questions. Bond, I don't know how you come up with these great questions, but that's what Table Topics is, giving us a question that we can answer instead of saying, oh, I don't know what to say about that. But I'll say something else. Remember the days when we couldn't answer the Table Topics question and we would say, that's a great question, but I have something else to say. It's because the question perhaps was too difficult for them. Perfect working with the theme. For everyone that participated, and I believe it was, Bond, everyone in this audience, to respond to Table Topics, because that's the name of the game. We want every member who attends a Toastmasters meeting to have some type of speaking, whether it's a prepared speech, impromptu speech, which is Table Topics, or timer or other role. Sometimes we just need to participate to feel engaged, to feel like we're a part of this meeting, we're a part of growing and learning from Toastmasters. How many of you, raise your hand, you felt like you'd learned something from this meeting on reflections? Yes, I see every hand go
Yep.
up, because we know that we have to come here if we're going to get up at 7 a.m. Pacific time, that it has to be worth our while. And I think that we definitely feel that this meeting today was definitely worth the while of everyone who got up early and joined us for today. So thank you for attending. Thank you for being a part of our meeting. Thank you for filling in the gaps for those who could not attend or could not speak. We saw that our speaker had some technical difficulties. Our club president is out sick. The timer was replaced. I think that that's what we do best. We step in a time of need, and the meeting goes on very well. Thank you for all that you've done today in today's meeting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator Roz. Oh, thorough general evaluation. Thank you so much. I love it. True Toastmaster. Again, excellent meeting. I loved being Toastmaster this morning. I love the theme reflections. And I think we'll all leave today reflecting and just marinating on this theme because it is so important, reflections and sharing our stories with everyone around us. So I thank you for allowing me to be your Toastmaster today, and I will be back the next time. This concludes. Oh, I wanted to ask our guest, James, but I don't know if it's possible. Get his feedback, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. James.
And Elios is
Oh, and
also a
Elios.
guest.
Elios, I remember you were here the last time I was Toastmaster or on the meeting quite a while ago. How are you today, Elios?
So Elios just left a message on
okay.
the chat box. He will be listening. He's not speaking.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. So James, I don't know if we could hear from him because that was not good, his audio or so
Yeah.
James, come back, get your audio fixed and so we can chat. But thank you for dropping in. We appreciate it. Thank you for this awesome meeting. I return conduct back to our presiding officer, Roz.
All right. Thanks again, Suzanne.
Thank you,
Round of
everybody.
applause, everyone.
Thank
and
you.
Randy,
And
we
Randy.
know you're a big fan of Suzanne Ali. Tell us what you thought about her performance today as
That
Toastmaster
was
of the Day.
I
terrible.
think she performed wonderfully. She really did.
It was terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
She did a great job.
I tend to be hard on myself.
Yeah.
Little rusty, but good. Thank
we
you.
all
Randy.
do that. We all do that. And
Thank you, Randy.
that's that self-talk. We have to work on it all the time.
That's
Hey,
great.
hey, Roz, I'm gonna throw a quick note in there,
Okay,
if I could, as a guest.
of course.
Yes.
This evening at 5 p.m., James Malinchek is doing, through Craig Beswald, is doing a special webinar. And if you guys are interested, I can send it out to Roz. I think, Roz, you may already have it because
Yes.
you're a
I
mastermind.
saw your email.
You
Yes.
might share that with other people here if they're interested.
Okay.
It's one of those don't miss it kind of things. So, and James Malinchek, if you don't know who he is, shame on you, but you can always Google him and look it up. That's all I got to say about that.
All right. Thank you, Randy. And it's so good to see you again.
Good to see you
All
guys.
right.
All right. God
Okay.
bless you.
Now, for the rest of the meeting, we know that there are follow-ups. You know how there's a meeting after the meeting?
Yes.
Well, today is the meeting where the officers would have an executive committee meeting afterwards, but I don't feel that it's needed because our president is not here, and she always has so much input at our executive committee meetings. She leads this club with excellence, and she has outstanding suggestions during our officers meeting. The officers present right now, do you mind if we do not have an executive committee meeting?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm okay with that as well.
Okay, April, Rosabelle and Bond?
That's fine. Hope Dr. Valencia gets well soon. I understand she's out sick,
Yes.
as I was
Okay.
last month and a half. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There are things that we have to take care of, and first and foremost is our health. So thank you all. We will not have an executive committee meeting following this meeting.